everyone. I'm here with an astrology overview for 2021. This is going to be a very general type of astrology report where I'm giving you the major themes for the coming year. If you want more detail, I do have monthly ones that I put out on this channel. So I'll be doing one for January next week. So you can check that out. I usually put them up the first Friday or Saturday of the month. So you can, check those out here. And then if you want even more detail on my Patreon, I do have weekly ones where I talk about the week and the moon cycles and all that kind of stuff. But let's dive into 2021. So 2020, what a crazy year. 2020, some of the aspects that really dominated 2020 are changing and shifting as we go into 2021. And I think, the one that is probably the biggest and you may have heard about even in passing if you've been, looking at the news or anything, is Jupiter and Saturn have moved from Capricorn into Aquarius. So there's been the news headlines of on the 21st, Jupiter and Saturn were joined up in the sky. You could see them in the sky if you wanted. I couldn't see them here because it was cloudy, but oh well. But Saturn's been in Capricorn for the past 2.5 years, and then Jupiter has been in Capricorn for the last year. Pluto is still in Capricorn, and he's going to be there until I think 2023. So that's not changing. But instead of having all this energy piled into Capricorn, which brought a lot of rules and restrictions and people feeling very held back, a lot of the difficulties that have happened in 2020, well, that's starting to go away. So we're not totally out of the woods yet, but there are some signs of things lightening up, especially as we get into the second half of the year. So last year was definitely dominated by Capricorn things like rules, boundaries, power structures, tyrants. All of those tend to fall under Capricorn type issues. And so you had Jupiter, the planet of expansion and luck, in a sign he's not terribly happy with and doesn't do terribly well in, coupled with Saturn, who rules Capricorn, who is very much about boundaries and structures and rules and regulation. And you had it working with Pluto, who is the planet in charge of death and transformation and trying to slowly break down those things. So there were a lot of disruptions, obviously, in 2020. I mean, who would have expected all of this? But that energy is starting to change and shift. So what does that mean for us? Well, first of all, Jupiter spends about roughly a year in a sign, and Saturn spends 2.5 years. So the next 2.5 years or so through 2021 and 2022 and into 2023, Saturn is the planet in charge of hard work and rules and boundaries and structures. And he asks us to work hard in that area of our chart. And if we work hard, he'll reward us. And if we don't work hard or we do bad things, then karma will catch up with us. So if you know your birth chart, look at your Aquarius house to see where you need to put work into for the next 2.5 years. Now, on a societal level, Saturn's asking us to work on things like community, work on things like humanitarianism, group organizations. He also, he's in the sign of Aquarius, which is a sign of revolution, a sign of change, a sign of rebelliousness at times. It's also a sign that rules things like innovation and technology. So I'm going to anticipate we're going to see themes popping up around rules around the internet, rules around technology, what kind of boundaries and structures we want to put to them, what kind of rules and restrictions we want to put there. There also may be authority that wants to put rules and restrictions there, whether we like it or not. I also see a lot of social groups, humanitarian causes getting more organized. So that's some themes that you can look for there. And then with Jupiter joining up in that sign as well, he's bringing a lot of luck and optimism to those areas too. So we may see some good improvements in technology. We may also see social movements moving forward with things. So that's a very hopeful sign, I think, going into Aquarius. It is also a rebellious sign though too. So there can be some disruptions when people don't want to do what authority, is telling them to do, or what the greater society may be saying we think is the right thing to do. There may be others who don't want to do that. So that's sort of the negative or shadow side with Aquarius. Aquarius is great at rebelling when it has a cause, when it has something to work towards. Not so good when it's just doing it for the sake of doing it. So it's good to, pick some causes this year, or, that you support and that you want to work towards, as opposed to just rebelling against restrictions. Now, Jupiter does move into Pisces. He moves in on, I took notes, May 13th and goes back out July 28th. Because what happens is he moves forward in Aquarius and he crosses into Pisces, stops and goes retrograde on, I wrote this down. He goes retrograde on June 20th, goes back to the beginning of Pisces and back into Aquarius. So he spends a brief time, 2 months in Pisces, and he's very happy in that sign. That's one of the signs he rules. He's super happy there. This will be a time when things, I think, will open up more. I think it's also a time when people are feeling more optimistic, more generous, more hopeful about the future. It's also a time where there may be a lot of themes around like beaches and water and oceans. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out, but it's Pisces, right? So expect some Pisces type things to come up during the summer. Now, there are some people that think that, maybe lockdowns might be lifted at that point, but they might go back into lockdown. It might be premature, but we'll see how it plays out. But still, it looks like the summer is quite hopeful. So I'm very happy and looking forward to that. But he does make his way back into Aquarius for most of the rest of the year. He then goes into Pisces on December 28th, so at the end of 2021. And so he moves into 2022, bringing a lot more hope and optimism there. So I see 2021 as a transition. We're moving out of things. We also have, though, Uranus in Taurus, and he's going to be there for a while. And so Taurus is a sign that is square, which is a difficult aspect to Aquarius. So what's happening this year is we do have Saturn making a square, which is a stressful aspect, to Uranus on February 17th, June 14th, and December 24th. Those are the exact dates. But what's happening is we have authority, and then we have Uranus, the planet of innovation and inspiration, but also sudden change and disruption. And so we have them at stressing and at odds with each other. And also Saturn is in Aquarius, which is about technology, and Uranus, who wants to make changes, is in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus rules things like agriculture, nature, the environment. It rules things like the physical. So there's kind of like this tension between people wanting to do things physically, and then also the technological, the internet world, the web. So I expect that some of these issues are going to come up. Someone had pointed out that we are already starting to see some of those things with innovations in things like food, new food sources like lab-grown meat, and all the what they call it, beyond meats, like the fake meats and things. So innovations in food, but then we also have, like in India, there's been farmers that are on strike and revolting. And so we may see issues around things like land and food and money and the environment. There may be, there's protests and things in those areas that we're going to see around those times, I think. So those are some of the themes you may see pop up for this year. We'll see how it plays out. We also have to watch Mars this year, because Mars spent 6 months in Aries, and he is going to, thankfully, after spending all that time in the Mars retrograde and everything, going into Taurus at the beginning of January, on January 6th. So he doesn't have any retrogrades next year, so that's great. But when he's in Taurus, he's going to be joining up with Uranus, and so that could be very volatile. He's doing that on January 23rd, and he's also going to be squaring Saturn and Jupiter. So there may be some like disruptions and things. It's like Mars is trying to like activate and disrupt things. So again, we may see some disruptions in that area. And then again, he is going to be opposite of Pluto in Capricorn on June 5th, which can bring up some of the old issues from this past year, some changes, some things that we may have to contend with that have been left undone. He's then going to oppose Saturn and Jupiter in July. So there again, he's causing some tension between, what authority wants, what individuals wants, because he's going to be in Leo and he's going to be very forceful. So I do see some tensions in that area there, as well as in November when he squares Saturn and opposes Uranus. So again, there's going to be, it's like we're in this weird phase where there is the new ways and the old ways become at odds with each other. Collective responsibility and individual rights are continuing to be a theme where they bump up against each other, and people are trying to figure out what the balance is and how to resolve some of those things. So that's what I'm seeing as some of the big issues there. Now, we do have a Venus retrograde. It's not till the end of the year, December 19th in the sign of Capricorn, and then it's until January 29th. So last half of December and into January of 2022. Venus retrogrades tend to be periods people have noticed of social unrest. Venus retrogrades also tend to bring up societal injustices. This is in Capricorn, so we may see some of these things talking about how maybe authority has abused its power coming up at the end of next year. So watch for that. We always have Mercury retrogrades. This year, they're all in air signs. This year is very air dominated. The air element, which is thinking, communication, logic. It is all about thoughts, and you could put the internet in there, innovation, all that kind of stuff. So we have a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aquarius from January 30th to February 20th. There's one in the sign of Gemini from May 29th to June 22nd. And the final one is in Libra, September 27th to October 18th. So again, if you know your chart, look at what houses those signs rule to know where you may experience some disruptions. We always have Mercury retrogrades. They're 3 times a year, nothing to freak out about. Just build in extra time for yourself, extra plans, back things up. Just don't, just prepare for them. That's all. And then, as always, we have eclipses. So we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Sagittarius on May 26th, and a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Gemini on June 10th. So they're on the Gemini and the Sagittarius axis. So there's going to be revelations about travel, revelations about maybe things that have been going on with like diplomacy and foreign affairs. There's also going to be maybe some endings when it comes to things like transportation and communication. So there may be just issues with things not working right or going out of business or having to make changes around that time. Then we have on the November 19th, we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. We're right at the cusp of its slip of the eclipse axis, switching from Gemini and Sagittarius to Taurus and Scorpio. So we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So we may see some revelations around money and finances. And then on December 4th, we have a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So some new beginnings when it comes to things like philosophy and religion, things like that. So those are the themes that we're going to be working with, and that's very general for the year 2021. I really see 2021 as a year of transition, a year of the old and the new, the technology and the natural world and the physical world, digital and analog, so to speak, as trying to find a balance, trying to figure out where we are in this new phase. I do feel like things are going to slowly get better, but I don't think it's going to go back to the way it was. There's going to be things that return and things that don't. And we're all trying to figure out what that is and what that looks like in 2021. So I guess we'll see how it all plays out. Like I said, next week I am going to post one for January with all the January themes. So watch for that. If you want weekly stuff, I have that, like I said, on my Patreon where you can check that out. You can also follow me on Twitter. I put major aspects up on there on the days that they happen and put like a fun little GIF or whatever, just for fun. I do that. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think some of the themes are for this year and what you're looking forward to. I'm also going to do a video about the card of the year, the tarot card of the year, and what that means for the year. I'm going to be putting that up probably next week as well. Just in case you're curious, the card of 2021 is the Hierophant. So I'm going to be talking about that. All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys are amazing. Love you all. And as always, peace and love and rock and roll.